Hi everybody, Keith here. Hey, got some things I wanted to go over with again. Of course, always. I'm trying to put some stuff out there for people to educate themselves with. And today I want to start it out with let it be known herein contains my opinion or opinions as I define them according to my beliefs. And when it comes to beliefs, my belief is that beliefs are inherent to the same degree as one's rights and do not depend on, but may include, being religious, political, educational, or otherwise, but not bound strictly to them. Choices are inherent likewise. And then finally, of course, one's got a right to change one's mind freely. It too is inherent to that same degree. One's right does not reside over or disparage the others. They are all inherent. Now, having said that, I want to take a look at Black's Law, Black's Law, 4th edition, page 921. And when we look up the word inherent, it doesn't have inherent, but it does have inhere, which is the pretext of that word. And it says to exist in and inseparable from something else, to stick fast. And then on that same page, right below it, we have what they have here says inherent power. And it says, an authority possessed without its being derived from another, a right, ability, or faculty of doing a thing without receiving that right, ability, or faculty from another. Then it says, see also power. Now here I want people to note that this is where you use other dictionaries to help you define it for your own particular instances. And when you use those other dictionaries, remember they're going to use other words, possibly like natural, right, privilege, etc. Uh, to get on to my basic point of your inherent rights. Um, when I said beliefs are inherent to the same degree as one's rights and do not depend on, but may include being religious, political, educational, or otherwise. Um, that's that's everybody's right. Period. It's a common right amongst all of man. We all have the right to believe what we want to believe, and in that, some of us may believe we have a certain set of rights, and others may believe that they have a different set of rights. That's your belief. That's your right. Those are your rights. They are all inherent. And just because I have what I call my rights and they're different from yours doesn't mean that I can disparage your rights just because they're different. Period. These are all things that we have within us, and they're not written in any law book or legal books or anything. They're described, but they're something that we hold ourselves inherently. And when it comes to law, it's the same thing. Law is clear and unwritten. It is grammatically correct if understood, in my opinion. In other words, you don't need to write it down. You communicate your belief with somebody else, and that belief is so common that it follows the law of nature. It's natural that if I have the right to breathe, you have the right to breathe. Those are our common rights. Unwritten. But when it comes to legalities, when it comes to this legal society, we have to understand legal is not lawful. When it comes to legal, it actually means it is unlawful. Legalities are spoken words that have been perverted, in other words, colored, by a member of a club known as the Bar Association. As well as others do the same thing. People that are members of the drama club do the same damn thing. They're running their mouths and spewing words and confusing people and getting them all acted and caught up in stuff that they really don't want to be caught up in. So anyway, this club is a private member association. And everything they do is all done under color of law through use of what is called legalese. Now that's a foreign language used that looks like common English, but even then within it, they use a foreign language. So again, I say it's all done under color of law. And I'd like to point out here is a good point to know what the Chicago Manual Style says about the use of foreign language in ASL, American Sign Language. So if anybody, and I don't have a copy myself, so if anybody can post anything else in regards to the use of foreign language and American Sign Language other than the Chicago Manual Styles, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. And then as far as the Chicago Manual Styles, I don't know what page it is, but it's 11147 is where it speaks ASL. That's the code reference I have here. And now this club, as I said, is a private member association. In other words, one has to be a bar card member to associate, bar card attorney to associate. Now, I believe they even have active bonds on the global market. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but I do believe that somewhere I heard that each bar member has a active bond somewhere. So it'd be nice if somebody could find out for sure. It'd be good info to know. Now, when it comes to this private bar member association, what they're doing there is they're using that First Amendment. And according to the First Amendment, we all have the freedom of association. And what they're describing there is they have the right to associate with a certain portion of the people. And I don't like calling it requirement myself, but in and of itself, that private member association, no matter what private member association it is, usually has a requirement itself to be a member. And usually that's got to have something to do with that commonplace amongst them all. Like with the private bar member association, they all have to be a bar card attorney. If they're not a bar card attorney, they're not going to be allowed to be a member. That's a requirement. But that's only a requirement for them. For my own personal private member association, which most people would commonly call a family, there is no requirement. You're just there. You're part of my private member association. I have no requirements. I have co-manufacturers, co-creators, co-members, things like that. But let's look at it as the whole truth when we talk about this freedom of association, and let it also be known that we have the right to not associate with those we wish not to associate with, no matter what their requirements are. We have that choice. And if for some reason we became a member of that association, remember, we all have that inherent right to change our minds at any time for any reason. So if you find yourself in a corrupt association, get out of it. Leave. Simple as that. Hold yourself no longer liable for their corrupt bullshit. Now, we've been talking about the private bar member association. Now let's look at the private member medical associations. This is where we figure out what it all entails, because this is something that goes on unrestrained pretty much because of that First Amendment. We have medical practitioners that do not carry licenses, that are private member medical are part of private member medical associations. They do not require that you have a license to be a member. They may have other requirements, experience in certain fields or whatever field you're practicing in, whatever. But when we look at that, we look it up, and I've got this page pulled up. It's Pro Advocate Group, an association thinking outside, protecting within. And it says private member association. Now what this site does, and it gives you contact information, phone number, you can email them and everything. But what this site's doing is they're helping with the private medical associations. They're helping them get set up and work with the, this here uses the Constitution, and it talks directly about the First and 14th Amendment. And it says in reviewing medical email solicitations, newsletters, and other medical publications over the years, we at Pro Advocate Group are more than ever convinced that there are numerous proven therapies and treatments outside of mainstream medicine that are providing relief and or cures for a wide variety of afflictions and diseases. Now, unfortunately, there are untold numbers of alternative healthcare practitioners. As I'm sure you know, many of them are going to be like your holistic healers, your topical herbal medicines and things like that that come from nature instead of being synthetically provided or chemically induced. And it says who possess these therapies and treatments but are unable to effectively advertise, market, and practice their craft in the public domain because of the heavy hand of state or federal boards, regulators, law enforcement agencies, and others who police any public unlicensed medical practice. So what that's stating here is that you have the right to practice medicine unlicensed if you do so through a private member association. And again, like I said earlier, I have no requirements. You could make your own private medical association and not have any other members except your clientele. They would be part of that private medical association as clientele. You don't have to have other medical practitioners involved. So you don't have to have a requirement such as that. Anyway, says what are the benefits of First and 14th Amendment private medical membership for unlicensed or licensed medical practitioners? And I'm going to read through these real quick because most of these you should be able to get a hold of grasp real quickly. And one, it says eliminate illegal investigations and sanctions by any licensing board. Again, to uphold your rights, you do not, and they cannot require licensing, registration fees, or anything like that. That's a right that you have. 2, practice medicine in your chosen area without paying outrageous malpractice insurance premiums because there's less risk of malpractice lawsuits and claims. And I'll tell you myself, I believe that's because when you go into independent contracts with people that are willing to take your services because they have a better belief in you and willing to follow along that holistic line, they're more confident, you're more confident, the paperwork is so much less, there's not all these hidden words, you don't have these strictly binding contracts that use those words to pervert it to one-sided advantage, things like that. And then 3 is practice medicine without the burden of strict compliance with the federal laws dealing with the protection of the public and HIPAA laws. And remember, when they say laws here, they're doing it under color of law. 4, maintain privacy of business and financial affairs. You have a right to keep your books private. You have the right to keep your affairs private, whether it be business or personal. All of it. That's your choice. 5, practice alternative medical modalities without fear of discrimination and sanctions. And then, of course, most of all, maintain more freedom and control of your chosen profession. when you don't have somebody else licensing you and restricting you with registration and insurance and I hear doctors paying $250,000 a year for their medical insurance. It's outrageous. I wouldn't pay it either. Fuck you, government. Anyway, there's more that you can read on that if you just look it up, and I'll leave the link on that here as well. But or you can just Google private medical association, private association, First Amendment, freedom of association. Google anything like that. Educate yourself. Now, the reason that all this stuff applies is because under the First and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution and equivalent provisions of your own state constitution, you have the right to associate with fellow members and offer benefits and services that are outside of the jurisdiction, venue, and authority of state and or federal agencies. And what I want everybody to understand here is when it says state of Iowa, that is a federal corporation. Understand that. It is a federal corporation. Every state with that name, all capital letters, it's a federal corporation. Title 28 USC 3002, Section 15A. Read it. What would be considered a criminal act outside the association, say in a private medical association, would be unauthorized practice of medicine, would be perfectly legal within a private association. So private association of oneself is law. Basic and simple. If you associate with no one but yourself and hold no contracts with that signature, then your unwritten word is law. You have the right to believe what you want to believe. You have the right to make your own choices. And you can change your mind anytime you want. So when you find out that you've said something that you didn't mean, you can change it verbally, and it's law. I'm sorry, I made an error. I never meant to claim that I was a citizen at any time. That's law. I just said it. And you can't rebut it. No one can. That's law. Unwritten. The legalese that they use against you put you in the public. Once you contract with a public entity, you go to the public side of things. This is what actually helps prevent the monopoly of government that the government currently holds on the markets, is by not going to that public side. Instead of going to a bar attorney, understand the word attorney, understand the word lawyer, understand they're unlawful in a court of law. Also know that bar attorneys are not supposed to represent certain people, like myself, who do not associate with them. It's in their own bar charter. I'm not supposed to. And when we get to the point where we have more of these private member associations, no matter what it is, private member restaurant association, private auto repair association, private trucking association, you can conduct all of this business privately and do so with law on your side, because all they have is color of law. They're a fictitious entity trying to conduct business with living men, which is against the maxims of law. Understand this stuff, people. Because I believe maxims of law do state something about a fictitious entity being able to contract with a fictitious entity but not a living man. And that's why when they drag you into courts and you sign your name, you just sign your name as a representative of that fictitious entity, allowing them to conduct the business. You're just giving them that jurisdiction. And what we have to do is get back to education on the common English, correct syntax, parse, and grammar. It's basic and simple. Law is unwritten. Legalese is written. But when or legalities are written, but when they write them in legalese and not the common English, correct syntax, parse, grammar. Learn this stuff, people. Learn this correct syntax, parse, grammar in common English so you can understand what they're saying to you, whether it's written down or not. Because when they write it down and you read it and it doesn't come across to make sense, they end up with dangly participle verbs and stuff. You understand that they're babbling themselves in some kind of foreign language. If you don't understand the foreign language, then, excuse me, point of clarity, you have to understand this stuff, people. You can do it any time. Just ask me, point of clarity. As far as my common English says, a person is a man or woman. Are you considering me a man? If they say yes, then they've already taken it onto the common law side and evoked your court of record. They've already said that they're looking at you as a man. Otherwise, they won't answer that question. They won't help clarify that. So, just one little last note when it comes to that. We talked about the First Amendment, freedom of association. Now let's talk about the Second Amendment, private member gun club. The right to keep and bear arms. And we've already known that we have the right to privacy. None of their fucking business. I can go make my own gun. It doesn't have a serial number on it. I don't have to report it to them. I don't even have to tell them what kind of ammunition it uses. It's my gun. It's my property. I'm the manufacturer. I have a complete ability to produce an affidavit of actual ownership. Complete ownership of me, my property, and all of my rights. Hope you guys understand this stuff. If you don't, maybe go back and learn some proper English, correct English, common English, correct syntax, parse, grammar. God bless y'all. I love you. That's all I got.